Welcome back to the Electric Guru. Wait, no, I'm the Compressor Guru. We have a couple more episodes. I'm squeezing all I can out of the Electric Guru before he sprouts his snow wings and goes again, which I don't know why you do that in June. But anyway, so I gave him an assignment today. I have 4 old motors. Actually, I have 5 old motors. And I wanted to see if we could do some diagnosis for our viewing audience to see if we can help them when they have a motor problem and actually know what to start looking at, where to start looking, and even how to tear one down, because we think we know what's wrong with this one here. So I'm turning it over to Eric, the Electric Guru, and explain what we're doing. I'll set off to the side.
Okay. Hey, good to be back. Hey, wow, good to be back with you guys. So we're kind of pick up on the other side of the capacitors. You know, we played with capacitors there in a previous episode, but right now this is a bare bones motor. The capacitors are gone. There's not connected to anything. And we're going to try and figure out what's wrong with this motor and why it had to be removed from service. In this case, what we're starting to do is diagnose the windings, and the windings on these motors are, you know, one winding's between 1 and 4, the other winding is between 5 and 8, and
what do those numbers mean?
they're just identifiers on the wires.
Are they labeled?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Is that all motors, Eric?
All.
Or just single phase motors?
It's just these single phase 240 volt motors.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But see the 4 on that wire and see the 8 on the red wire?
Oh, wait, let me zoom in there and see if I can see that. Hey, they have numbers on them. How cool is that?
There you go.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. The first thing we want to do though is we want to see if we have a short to ground in any of these windings. So we're going to use our ohm meter. Okay, this is a typical multimeter, amp probe, etc., etc. You know, available through most tool shops, including the Compressor Guru. But in this case, we're going to double check to make sure that our meter goes to 0 ohms. We're on an ohm scale, and it does go to 0 ohms. It goes from overload to 0. So we're going to check these wires and windings to see if we have a short to ground, okay, which would indicate that the winding has gone to the frame. The insulation is gone, but you know, it's just one quick test to see if that's a problem. So we're going to connect our leads from our ohm meter. We're going to pick up a ground right here on the case of the motor. And this is a die cast case, so it's a good ground. And that'll leave us with one probe to work with. So we'll just double check that we are grounded. So we read, you know, 0 ohms or 0.1 ohms on the case. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to check each end of the winding. And that one's still overloaded, which means there's no short to ground. And that one's still overloaded.
Oh, that's an OL
That's
for
an
overload.
OL.
Okay.
And that one is open. And that one is open. So we don't have a short to the ground. So the next thing we'll want to do is check to make sure that we don't have an open winding. So that's where, you know, a wire in the winding is just burned apart, or the mechanical connection has failed and the winding is not connected any longer. So again, we said our windings were between 4 and 1. So we're just going to basically connect that one on 4, connect this one on 1, and
0.6?
our winding is reading 0.6,
0.5
ohms. Okay,
Is that good?
that's a good reading for the winding, because again, that's just a straight wire going through the motor in many revolutions, and it's going to create an inductive resistance with that, because that's how the motor works. We're not going there. So now we're going to check our other winding between 5 and 8.
So I shouldn't ask, right?
You shouldn't ask. There you go. All these years and you finally learned.
No, just once.
Okay, so this winding appears to be saying that it's open. Okay. One thing about this winding is switched in and out of the circuit with the speed of the motor. So there's a centrifugal switch inside the motor. That may be our problem in this case.
So would that be the start winding?
It would be the start winding. So what we're going to do is disassemble this motor and get to that switch and see if we can do some more diagnosis. So with that, we're going to see if we can get this little bad boy apart. Okay, so there's a long bolt that goes the whole way through both ends of the motor. And as you take the nut off, that's your long bolt.
Huh.
So,
Is it threaded the whole way?
Nope, just on a little bit on the end, about
Okay.
an inch and a half on the end.
And are all of them that way?
All of these are that way, yep. As you can see, this motor beside me, these bolts or rods are on the outside. Okay. Difference between...
But they still go the whole
They
length
still
of it.
go the whole length to hold the two caps together.
Cool.
Okay, so we're just going to tap this and see if we can get this to come off nice and gentle. And it's not. So now I'm going to abuse one.
Don't you dare.
There we go, see? The right tool for the wrong job. That's the wrong tool.
Were those good tools?
Those are my SK screwdrivers. Those screwdrivers are 35 years old and they're still not screwed up.
Well, that's because you haven't worked with the electric guru long enough.
There we go. Okay. So here's the part that...
This is exciting.
I'm holding the rotor.
Okay.
You want me to hold the rotor?
Well, not because it seems to be... Did that rotor or that motor spin before?
Yeah.
I'm bringing
Look,
the
the whole thing's coming out.
whole thing out. And it's not coming easily.
What, Eric?
It looks like it's galled onto the shaft. I really don't want to tap on that. Because I really think this has the potential to be a good motor.
The other end plate just came loose.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
shaft.
Yes. If this side did that, it'd be easy. I think. You want me to help?
Yep. See if we can bring it through a little bit. If we can, then we'll disconnect this red wire.
Oh, we got a. Sorry.
That's okay, it worked.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. You're welcome.
Here.
So this is the centrifugal switch. Okay. That switches the start winding out and back in. So essentially what this is going to do, as the motor comes up to speed, the start winding and the start capacitor is going to be in the circuit, and then it's going to break that connection to the capacitor.
So which
And-
little thing in there is that?
Well,
Go. Oh, I see.
okay,
Yep.
all right.
And what do those do?
They switch the winding in and out. And if you look, and see, this is part of the problem, is that this contact point right here is burnt.
Oh, I can see. I actually can see the burnt part on the point.
Right. So that would keep this winding from being in the circuit when it's supposed to be. Okay, the idea is that that's closed and we're in the circuit, and then it opens up. Well, it's open anyhow, so it'll never be in the circuit. So the motor will try very, very, very hard to start. So it will be almost impossible to start under load. Okay, so in this case, our centrifugal switch is bad. Okay, and we can replace this. Okay, and put a new switch in here and potentially have a good motor once we put our capacitor bank back on.
So you just need to replace that side.
It's an assembly.
Oh, it's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing. Here, you want to see what it
Okay.
looks like out of there? One of those chisels we used earlier. Oh, wait.
My good weir screwdrivers are in a bag in the truck.
Because you won't even get them out of the truck for him?
Hey, I got them the socket out of the truck. Now, Eric, I have a question while you're screwing.
Yes.
So, when a motor starts, it draws more amperage. Does it draw more amperage because that switch is closed?
It draws more amperage because it's a motor.
Okay.
Okay, so characteristically a motor has a full load amp rating on it.
Right.
And during inrush, or the amount of the time when the electricity is flowing through all those windings and trying to generate the torque to get this motor turning, okay, it can draw up to 6 times its normal current. And so the full load rating on this motor's
24 or so.
22 amps.
Okay.
Okay, so it can draw up to 6 times. It can draw up to 120 amps for milliseconds, but it can draw that high current till it gets everything moving. As everything moves, the current drops.
So by adding a start field, it helps that milliseconds.
It changes the time, yes, yes, and gives you the torque. If you don't have the torque, you're not going to start. But we can disconnect this. Maybe we might have another one of those. Oh, there it is. Okay, so the wire connection came loose. And now you can really see what those contacts look like. Oh, maybe that's an even better shot of the contact.
Stay right there. Why, it looks burnt.
It's actually gone.
So that's supposed to be bright and shiny and not have carbon buildup
And
around
not
it.
be missing.
Oh, that's missing? Okay.
It should be nice and shiny like that on the back side, just to show you that it's all there, but it's all not there. Here's the contact point that's off of it.
So we replace the switch, we should have a good motor.
We replace the switch, we should have a good motor.
Oh, and that's missing. I see. And that one's on. I see. It's missing that whole piece.
That whole piece.
Cool.
And as that contact tries to close, see it catches right there?
Uh-huh.
So one of two things could happen, and that's why it's really burnt like that, is that start winding can hang in and cause a higher current to run in the motor for that period of time. Or when it doesn't make connection at all, then that start winding is not there and is trying to start on the run winding. Only. And when that contact went, it looks like it really did some damage to the other side, which was the first side we saw the arcing on. This side.
Okay.
Okay, so this is
That's no good.
no good. Okay, and
But we think the rest of the motor might be.
we think the rest of the motor probably is. The bearings appear to be good because the shaft would spin. We'll set these pieces off to the side here. We can go back and check our winding. And let's see, red to red, this should be red to red. That's just a straight wire up there. That's 0 ohms. We have continuity there. Okay. The other side of that winding had to come through the switches, and I'm believing that this side, which is the other half of that, which we still don't have connected, would be all connected here. So here's the other side of that winding. So now we're at 1.4 ohms across that winding. Since we were last at this motor, the compressor guru has acquired the correct switch to repair it. So if you look and compare the old switch to the new one, the old one is all burnt and this one is nice and shiny. And then on the back side, the old one's missing part of the contact, and this has the contact intact.
So what was burned? Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do is replace our switch. The switch was mounted in the end bell for the motor.
See if I focus. Go. Oh, paper towel.
It works.
Okay.
It's a phenolic material. You just don't want to leave much residue on it that might have copper track or something like that in it that under certain conditions may arc it out. So okay, we're going to set our, and this is an insulating material, so don't think that you can simply replace it with a piece of aluminum or something like that. Should this be broke.
How about cardboard?
Cardboard's no, you man with a sense of humor.
I was thinking about that
Cardboard.
piece we had the other day. Okay, while you're screwing that in, I'm going to ask a question that I'm sure somebody is going to ask. What's the torque on that screw?
Firm.
Firm. Okay. Because I got a lot of questions. Hey, can you give me the torque on that? And, you know, most of it's just common sense
This
stuff.
one's going back in firm.
Firm. Okay.
firm.
So you're cleaning it up nice and neat.
Yeah. And now we're going to put the wires back in it. La-ta-ta. Our red one goes back there. So,
What are those hooking onto?
they come up through here to reattach to the capacitors.
Oh, could you lift it up and tilt it toward me just a little bit? Leave this side down on the, yeah. Lift up with your left hand and move your right hand out of the way. So when you put those on, they just slid right on the little metal pieces in there.
They did.
Okay. That helps.
So now we're going to slide this back into place.
Oh, because all those wires were through there in the beginning. I remember.
And the thing you have to remember when you do this is what's the top and what's the bottom of your bell housing.
Do you have the switch in upside down?
I do.
Wow. I thought it was just me that did those kind of things.
No, I should have marked this and I didn't.
Well, how can you tell the top from the bottom, Eric?
Well, it's pretty easy when you go to put it together. The grease zerk is in the bottom and it
Well,
doesn't go together that way.
Well, it can go together that
Well,
way, but it'd be terribly hard to grease.
Awful hard to grease.
So what's the torque on that to get it out?
Hard.
Very firm.
Oh, very firm. That's right.
Firm plus one, because it went in at firm.
Wow. You know, the compressor guru never seems to do these sort of things. He's
Bud
always
does, but the guru doesn't make mistakes. Bud makes mistakes.
right. Bud makes all kinds of mistakes.
The guru fixes them. So Eric did that. We're looking for the electric guru to fix it, though.
Now we're going to go back through the hole with the black wires. And you want to keep your wires away from your moving parts here, if you will. And what are the moving parts? This is your bearing. That's on your armature shaft, for the sake of Valerie's understanding.
There you go.
Okay, now as this goes back together, we keep the wires out of the road so we get nothing in the moving area. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is bring the front of this back together. We'll get this out of here.
You don't have to put a screw in that to make it okay? Think it'll fall off? Okay. The electric guru is looking at me like I have 3 heads and how dare I say anything like that. Well, it's only because I've worked with you 2 yo-yos before.
Where'd you find her again?
Your house.
Oh, that's right. These are those really long screws. Do you remember which end the really long screw comes in from?
All right, so now we're going to get our bolts and nuts and find our path through the motor till we get to the other side. And if we do this correctly, somewhere there, it should find it. Silly boy. Bifocals are intended as a guide.
Oh, so you might have to pull that other side off to get it in.
Where'd you find her again?
Your mom and dad's house.
Immoral support.
And moral support. She missed that one today too.
I can't see much there, so it's not.
That one went right through.
It's the same as the top.
It's like two of them are lined up, the other ones just go poof.
We'll see about that.
If you would have left this end plate on upside down, would you put the lifting hook on the other side?
Always a funny, isn't he?
No, he's not always funny. Okay.
So what torque do you do these at?
There is a torque spec for these.
I know there would be.
Yeah. I don't have that at hand, but we can look it up.
It's going to be using your head, right?
It truly is, but again, you're gonna bring these together slowly, watching your seam, your front seam meshed right up. It's nice and smooth. You know, there's very little issue with that. The back bell is gonna be a little more difficult to get back in because we had trouble getting it off. So we're gonna be compressing that.
Well, it looks like this side might be a little bit wider than the top is.
So you're gonna screw it in, so I should not see this little shiny place.
You're not going to go across from it?
No,
Okay.
because my bottom's wider.
Okay.
We're gonna bring that in first.
Okay. Oh, that gap opened back up since you tightened the other side down.
Okay, so this was making a repair to your compressor motor, and again, this was a 5-horse motor, 230 volt, single phase, capacitive start motor. And our motor, the centrifugal switch went bad, and so today we replaced that centrifugal switch, which was burnt and burnt off so that it would not energize your start windings. That switch moves with the force of the motor, so once the motor gets up to speed, it disengages that start winding, lets you run on your run winding. So we're going to get the capacitors, research them, get the right capacitors on this motor, and get it ready to fire up, and we're going to use it on one of the projects here in the shop. So hopefully we've given you some tips, some education. Guru?
Eric, I want to thank you. This is the last thing we have scheduled for you to shoot this year. Now, I know you're going to sprout wings and leave us in the fall, but I'm still going to use you for work stuff. But I think this is our last shoot with them, and leave kind comments for the electric guru. Leave.
You don't
maybe-
want them to leave comments like, hey, he could really use a shave and a haircut.
Yeah.
No.
Leave
Two
mean
bits.
comments for Eric. Leave nice comments for the electric guru. Leave comments, please. Anyway, we can announce the winner to the poll that we put up June 1st. The next episode you're probably going to see, unless something weird comes up, the next episode you're going to see is the Ingersoll 7T for teardown and evaluation. We do not know if it's rebuildable, but we're going to show you what's inside a 7T, and we'll go from there. Folks, thank you. God bless. This is the Compressor Guru with the Electric Guru, and wish him well in his travels. God bless.
See you, Santa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Now, can you use a screwdriver and point? Because your chubby little fingers block it. There we go.